Welcome to the Carlito Monroe Show. I'm your host, Carlito Monroe. First, I want to give a thanks to the truckers. That's what I usually do. Shout out to my truckers because if it wasn't for them, wouldn't have the things that we need on our shelves, things that we want on our shelves. So, see your local truck driver, thank them for their service because, hey, they're out there day and night while we're sleeping. So, that is an important job to have. I think they're grossly underpaid. But I want them to know that I appreciate them, and I think everybody should appreciate them too. But I got my information at the bottom here, social media things. I want you to click, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell when I do uploads. I'm gonna try to start uploading a little more. Actually a lot more. Start getting more views and subscribers, and try to get a hold of that algorithm. And I think Instagram is on there to follow the show. I'm gonna do updates on there too. Try to do a live once I get so many subscribers and followers on Instagram. So that's my Instagram on there also. And then the Cash App, any donation will be appreciated. But all three of those are the same, Carlito Monroe Show, all one word. And I also have a TikTok, but I don't have that down at the bottom. But it's also Carlito Monroe Show _. So, as you've seen in the title, I'm kind of doing something a little different. Instead of just talking about entertainment news or something news that's going on, if I discover some kind of new information or something that I didn't know before, I just want to talk about it, and people could leave comments on whatever they think about it. And you guys may know all about it, but it was something new to me. And I think pedophilia is a disgusting thing, but I kind of feel like it's being normalized to a certain degree. I mean, I think they're trying to normalize. I'm not going to say it's normalized at this point, but I believe the powers that be are trying to head in that direction. I don't know if you ever heard of, there's this group or an association. The acronym is NAMBLA. And it's NAMBLA. And it's the acronym for North American Man Boy Love Association. And I'm thinking, like, how does this thing even exist? How is this and they existed since, like, I can't remember the date exactly. I want to say it's like December 2nd, 1978 or something like that. It's been around a long time now. At the time, I think it was like 1,000 some members. So there were men that were really like, yeah, this is a great idea. We want little boys. And that seems so crazy to me. But this founder, I believe his name was David Thorsten, something to that effect. But I mean, he's dead now. But he was the one that he founded this organization, and I guess he felt like, hey, there's people out there like me that thinks that this should be okay. That he was a big advocate, or advocate and activist for the emancipation of children, and where it would be okay for a man to be able to be with a boy. A young boy. I mean, the mind's still developing. It's crazy to me that this is something that he thought is a good idea. And it's not just him. It was a lot of people at that time. To have 1,000 some people in the 70s, in the late 70s, early 80s, that was a part of his organization. And from what I understood, that the law enforcement, different branches of law enforcement, would send undercover people in there to try to, infiltrate to see what was really going on, how far were they going with things. And then people were getting arrested. They were breaking up a lot of these meetings and putting it into them coming together, even talk about this thing. And then, as times change and you have the internet and everything now. So I don't think now that they even have like actual meetings where they're like sitting down as a group talking to each other about something that they can do to move this movement that they have forward. I don't know if that still goes on. But now since this internet stuff, they have Facebook, they have Twitter, they have these organizations more online. So I imagine the membership is really huge now. And then, I mean, according to the Forbes website, at one point, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, had joined NAMBLA on Facebook. So I mean, and I'm not saying he's some pedophile or something. I don't. I mean, I don't know. I don't know him personally. I haven't heard anything other than seeing this, which surprised me. But maybe he did it as part of something he was trying to roll out with Facebook and showing he's with everybody. We're a big group or something. I'm sure it was something going on. He may not be a member to this day, but yeah, you look it up. In 2010, he was a member. I don't know if he still is though, but yeah, man, I think you guys should look this up just to get some information on it, because to me, it's frightening to me, to have this organization and then to be advocates for it, and it's almost like you're trying to make it like legal or okay, and everybody know that's not okay. I mean, you have those. Pretty much every family has an uncle that your parents like, oh, don't leave the kids with him. Don't leave the kids by themselves with him. Oh, is he with Jerry again? And I'm just saying the name Jerry. I don't have any uncles named Jerry, but don't leave him with Jerry. You got to watch him. I mean, it shouldn't even be like that. It should just, this is your family member, and it's okay. I think part of that, what made me was look into this a little bit too, was with the Ari Spears thing, where he, with him and Tiffany Haddish did the video thing. I was kind of like, man, I mean, that's not even a joking matter. Why would you think that would even be a joke? So he tried to make a funny spin on it, but there was just nothing funny about it. But excuse me. But yeah, he tried to do something with that, but that's kind of a real thing. I mean, in the skit, Tiffany Haddish was leaving her child with him, and this is supposed to be, I think, his uncle or something. But that happens in families every day. There's uncles in everybody's family. I mean, it was an uncle that we had to stay away from. Well, I mean, you didn't have to stay away from him, but you could not be left alone with him. And I never knew why. I was young around that time, and then after that, I think, yeah, he died. Yeah, he died. So I don't know what he had done in the past, and I never even asked my mother. Now I'm older. I could say, hey, what was going on with him? But I never asked. I just came to the assumption that, it's one of these situations. So, I just don't like that at all, man. And you'll see something in the paper or hear something on the news, and if you follow it, you'll look up that the person didn't even get that much time, if they got time at all. If they had the right lawyer, they probably got probation. And if they actually went to jail, it was like a year. And by the time they actually went to a actual jail, it's like medium security, and they've already served 3 or 4 months in the county. So it's time served. So they're up there like in a couple of months, and then they're back home, back on the street to do it all over again. If that's the case, at least in the state that I live in. And this is a particular case that I followed and kind of was close to a certain degree. So, that being said, that's why I know the little information I know about it. But I don't, now that I think, I didn't think he had the greatest lawyer, but who knows, how lawyers work. If this lawyer, dad was a lawyer, and the dad used to be a judge, and he's friends with the judge, and they all go fishing and hunting and rent Airbnbs together. So, it's all a game. It's a money game, in my opinion. As there's no facts based to this thing. But if you get in trouble, try to find out what is the lineage of your lawyer. If his dad is a lawyer and he's been a lawyer in that town or that state for so many years, and if you catch one picture with him shaking hands with a judge, not even the judge that may be over your case, just a judge, I'd hire that lawyer. You're more likely going to get out of whatever you're in trouble for or at least get a lesser sentence. I mean, that's just some tongue-in-cheek advice, but that's what I go by. But that's another thing. Staying on the subject too is it's called I can't remember this. It's in Afghanistan. A lot of military people. And the only reason I know about it because I work with a lot of military guys, and they told me about it. Bakabazi. And what that is it's a thing that goes on mainly in Afghanistan and northwestern Pakistan. And what that is, it's a man boy love kind of thing. And around the Civil War time, according to Taliban law, that was a death penalty. But now it's not. They're not enforcing it as much, and because that war is over with now. The Afghan Civil War is over, so they're kind of back to regular Afghan law, and it's still a law, but it's not a death penalty. And if you are an astute, I don't know what the proper term, Afghan, I guess, or but just basically, if you have money, they don't bother you so much about it. The world is totally different than North America, than the United States. We have one way of thinking, and the rest of the world has a whole different way of thinking. And they think it's okay to get little boys because they use these little boys. I think they call them the dancing boys, the boys that dance or something like that. In theory, they're not with the women for pleasure. They're with the women solely for reproduction. And then they're with the little boys for pleasure. And that is insane. That's insane. But it's an insane way of thinking here. In North America, in the United States, it's an insane way of thinking here. Over there, this is something normal for them. But man, to me, that just throws me for a loop. I can't believe that that's something that could be normal. You know what I mean? It's it just seems insane to me. But I mean, maybe I'm looking into it too far, and maybe just because the way I was born in North America. I was born in the United States, where that's wrong. That's a no-no. That's nothing you want. That you shouldn't even have that feeling for any kids. That's how it's supposed to be, but apparently it's not, because there's a lot of pedophiles that are in jail. In the United States, it's a lot of them are running the streets. You hear little stories every day. I remember my daughter wanting to go to I think they call them, it was at a skating ring at like a lock-in, and then they'd be there all night, and then they open the door at 7 a.m. or whatever. And it was a church putting on the event. And I was like, I'm not comfortable with that. But, she wanted to go, and I was like, well, I guess it might be. Her mother was like, oh, it'll be fine, the church or whatever. And I said, yeah, I don't know. Well, I said, all right, who's going to be there? Who's the chaperones? There's got to be some chaperones. Oh, well, it's going to be, mother such and such, mother such and such, and mother such and such, and brother such and such. I was like, brother? I was like, you talking about the young guy? At the time, he was like 22 years old. He was like, oh, yeah, he's going to be there. It didn't sit right with me. And the reason it didn't sit right with me, because I put myself in a 22-year-old's shoes. I'm not going to want to be in a skating ring all night on a Saturday night with a bunch of kids. Church or no church, I don't want to do that. I'm 22 years old. I'm a man. I can drink legally. I can smoke cigarettes. I can go to bars and clubs and strip clubs, and I can do all of this stuff. I could be with a woman somewhere at a motel or whatever. I mean, I would be doing young man things. I wouldn't want to be with some kids in a skating ring all night. To me, there had to be some kind of ulterior motive if that's something that he wanted to do and he was all right with doing. I mean, there's church, but there ain't that much church. And I was like, oh, no. If he wasn't there, I still was skeptical. But him being there, I was like, you can't go. And I just made a judgment call, and it can't go. And ironically, and I'm not even sure that's the right word to use for this, but what ended up happening was, like 3 years later, it was a little boy. Well, I'm not going to say a little boy because they weren't that young. They were like 11, 12 or something like that, but still young. The boy said something to his mother, and his mother said something to the pastor and everything. And come to find out, he don't know for a fact, but supposedly he got fondled by that young man at that skate thing that night. Now, my daughter is a girl, so I guess she would have been safe. But what if my son was wanting to do something like that and he encountered something like that at 12 years old? I just, man, so it didn't necessarily prove me right, but I was on to something. He had an ulterior motive to be at this church event at 22 years old on a Saturday night, want to be locked in with a bunch of kids. He had something, and was he just wanting to get that little boy, or just the opportunity to fondle boy? He may have fondled more than just that one boy. He may have went further, and we just don't know about that. That boy was the other kids were too scared to come forward or too embarrassed to come forward. There's all kind of situations like that. And as a young man, it's a tough situation. You're not going to always say anything, and I kind of believe that goes with the girls too, because there's girls getting molested all the time, and they're not necessarily reporting it. And it's not that they're scared. I mean, it may be part of being scared, but then a lot of it may just be embarrassed. Not saying that is their fault, just not wanting anybody to know that this happened to them. And for a little boy, I really can see that happen. I can really see that going on for a little boy. I'm gonna tell this story, and I thought about it. I wasn't sure if I was wanting to tell it because I never told my mom this story. But this was years ago. I had to be, I want to say maybe 8 or 9. No, I was probably about 9 or 10 because I think I was in the 4th or 5th grade, and I was a little kid. I wasn't. Some kids were a little larger than others. They hit puberty early or whatever. I wasn't that. I didn't get tall till my junior year of high school, but and I think I was about 16 then. But I was a little kid, and my mom, because it was me and my mom, and she's a single mother trying to raise a son, and it was difficult. Growing up in an urban city, crime rate extremely high. Always something going on. Always something going on. Just always. And she had to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. And my mom she was big on that. She was going to take care of me or take care of us, and by all means necessary. And so she worked this job, and I can't remember the name of the company, but it was a cleaning company. And what they did was you clean offices at night. Excuse me. You clean offices at night. And she would take me with her because it was overnight. And it was crazy because I'm up all night, but then sometimes I would go to sleep. But then if I was up, she'd have me going around, emptying little trash baskets at cubicles to get the little trash bags, going around with the brute, which I don't know if people know this or not, the big barrel kind of trash cans that have the wheels on it, you kind of roll around. Those are called brutes. And I only know that because that's what my mom did for probably 5 or 6 years, worked at this place. So I'll go around dumping those little trash cans. Other than that, she would just, clean the office. And if they had a couch in there, she had a cover and a pillow for me to just like, okay, you'll just lay on this couch while I clean or whatever. And then when I'm done, you'll be waking up in the morning, you rested, and you can go on to school. So that's how she did it. And it's just being a struggling, and I don't want to just say black woman, just struggling single parent, period. That's just what it is. So that's how it went. And then she had a guy that she befriended that would also clean that same floor. I can't remember his name, but I remember that he was gay. And at the time, I really didn't know what that meant. I think my mother was really blatant in how she was said. She just said, he doesn't like women, and I was like, well, mommy, he like you, so no, he's not attracted to women. And I'm still like, what are you talking about? What I mean? I'm 9, 10 years old. I haven't been introduced to any sexual acts or anything like that. So I didn't know what she's talking about. I just remember her saying he don't like women. Well, he's not attracted to women. Okay, whatever. And I don't know what that means. So let me just try to shorten this up some. But that's my first encounter with him. And every day I'd see him, and he had a feminine way about him, but I didn't really think anything about it. I'm a kid. So we clean, I go to sleep, not thinking anything about it. One time, it was one of those nights that I was sleeping in one of the offices that had a couch or something, or a recliner chair or something like that. And I remember waking up, and this guy was standing there. And then he said, wake up, sleepyhead, or something. Yeah, that's what he said. Wake up, sleepyhead. And I was like, what? Huh? I remember saying, well, my mama want me, I'm thinking, in my head, it's like, oh, he came to get me for my mother. And then he was like, oh, no, just going back to sleep. And then I went back to sleep. I'm 9, 10 years old. I don't know anything about it. Now, I don't remember being touched or anything like that, but I was asleep. Or it could be a thing psychologically, I've blocked it. And, what I mean? You don't really know. As far as I know, I wasn't. But, it could be a mental block that it'll take a psychiatrist to pull it out. No pun intended. So he goes out. I wake up. I never say anything to my mom about that he was in there. And so anyway, go on a day, goes on time, goes by. And she also had a day job, of course. And I remember her working for the city. And then I was out of school that day, or maybe it was the summer or something, because some months had went by. And the situation as far as him coming in where I was at, I don't remember that ever happening again. Or maybe he came in and I just didn't wake up to see him in there. But I don't know. But I knew it was time had went by. So I had grown to know him just because my mom would laugh and talk with him. So if my mom liked him, I got to like him, right? I think that's just a kind of way a kid would think. So that's what I did. And like I said before, the months that went by, and then I was at home. It could have been summertime or something, because I used to be left at home alone a lot, because my mom be at work and school was out. I was at home by myself, and I'd watch cartoons, and I would literally watch commercials and try to memorize the commercials. So when it came on, I'm able to say all the words exactly like they're saying and doing the commercials, the gestures and everything. So it was one time, I guess it was a little tough on my mom. Excuse me. She was at work, and we didn't live real far, probably 10, 12 blocks from where she worked. And then she said, well, get a quarter off my dresser and catch a bus. And I'd done this in the past several times. So I went to get a quarter, and it's crazy. It just shows how old I am and how long ago this was. A public transportation bus literally was $1. And I remember my mother complaining about that, like, this is ridiculous, but it was $1. So I went to the bus stop, waiting on the bus. The bus came, gave me a quarter, and I sat. And she always told me to sit near the front where the bus drive, but there were people sitting there. So I just went further back, and me not wanting to be really close to people. So I went back where it was kind of a little gap, and I sat. So I was closer to the back of the bus. So I'm on the bus. And ironically, that guy's there, my mother's friend from the night job. He's on the bus too. He was sitting in the back. And then he calls my name, and then he comes over to me, and he sits right next to me. He said, what are you doing on this bus? And I said, oh, I'm going to my mama's job, and she's going to give me some money so I can get McDonald's. And then he says, oh, okay. He says, cool, cool, cool. I remember him saying, cool, cool, cool. And then he says, hey, well, don't worry your mom about that. I got some money. I'll get you some McDonald's. And, as far as I know, this is my friend. My mama likes him. I got to like him, right? So I just said, okay. I'm 9 years old. I'm a kid. I'm fourth, fifth grade. So I'm like, okay. And then he pulls the string thing. He said, yeah, I got to get the money from my house. And it was his bus stop. So I don't know where he came from, but he was getting off a few blocks. Now at this point, I'm 4 or 5 blocks still away from my mama's job. And then he was like, no, I got to get the money from the house. And he's like, come on, get off the bus, get the money from the house. He said, I'll walk you down to your mama. Matter of fact, I'll walk you on to McDonald's and we'll get you whatever you want. And then I'll drop you back off with your mama. I need to talk to her anyway, because I want to tell her something about something. So it was something. But the way he was talking, it made me comfortable. I was a kid. My mama like him. I like him. He got to talk to my mama anyway. This is showing how my mind wasn't developed, at 9 years old. So I get off the bus. Far as my mother knows, I'm getting on the bus, coming down to her job. That's all she knows at this point. But I'm actually getting off the bus, going with a guy that she knows, but does not know that this guy has entered my life at this point. And so I get off the bus with him, bus go by and walking across the street, and we're walking down the street, and I'm walking all right. And he grabs my hand and he's like, he has my wrist and hand tight. And I was walking normal initially, and he probably could have followed through with this whole thing if he wouldn't have done that. If he would have probably just said, oh, been talking to me and walked freely. But he grabbed my hand and wrist, and he wasn't being mean yet. He just had it tightly and was walking faster. And he kept turning his head, looking to see if anybody sees him. That's what I'm guessing now. But at the time, I just remember my wrist hurting because I had really thin wrists. I'm a little skinny kid. And then I was like, you hurt my arm. You hurt my arm. And then he cursed me. He basically told me to shut the F up, and he snatched me real hard. But I remember it hurt my shoulder when he snatched me, and then he was gripping me tighter. And the way he had my hand, and the way he had it, it had my pinky, bent down like this. So he had his hand over my hand, and he was gripping it real tight, pulling me. So it felt like my pinky finger was broken, or it really was hurting. But, it wasn't broken, but it hurt real bad, and it made me cry. And he was steady, snatching, he's like, come on. And he's snatching, and he was calling me a little MF, and he's steady snatching on me, and he's going on, he's taking me on. And then I start crying, and I'm crying more and more because my pinky, I'm scared. I don't know what's going on now. And now, I'm not even looking for somebody around. I'm using my other hand to try to get his hand from go of his hand in the pinky, and I was going to run. But I'm 9 years old. This is an adult man. And he wasn't fat. He was a slim, fair-skinned guy that I'm sure could have caught me even if I ran. So, but my first instinct is to try to run. So I'm trying to get the other hand off, and then he snatched me real hard, and he told me if I tried again, he was going to kill me. Now, this is broad daylight, but, it's a lot of condemned houses, there's nothing around. This is part of the urban city that people that don't live there don't understand. There's not a lot of wandering eyes or looking eyes in a regular suburban neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that had a house with somebody in it that wasn't in the best shape, and it'll have 4 or 5 condemned houses, and then another house in it that's not in the best shape, and a lot of trees and weeds and everything around. And I'm crying and yelling, but there's nobody around to hear it or to even help if they wanted to. So, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. He tell me he's going to kill me. So I'm kind of walking, but kind of walking slow, and he's steady snatching, but I'm not trying to get his hand off of me anymore. But his hand had repositioned. And the reason his hand had repositioned because, when he told me he was going to kill me, he readjusted his grip on my hand, and now he just had me regular hand and squeezing my hand, but it wasn't hurting now, but he was snatching me and it was hurting my arm, and it was just making me cry. And this is actually upsetting me now thinking about it, because if I was to see that guy to this day, just remembering this story, it'd be a big problem for him. It'd be a big problem. So I remember him snatching me, and we came by this house, and I'm crying and crying, and then I looked, and there probably wasn't even this many guys on this porch, because there was like 3 or 4 condemned houses, trees, and I couldn't even see the house. And then once I cleared those trees and bushes, this house and porch was right there, and it was like, to me, it looked like maybe 8 or 9 guys. And but it maybe was about 5 or 6, I don't know, but it was guys on the porch. And I remember one of the guys' faces. Well, I remember that guy and then the main guy. But the guy face that I did remember, he was friends with my cousin. And I remember he was a gang member. He was a GD, Gangster Disciples. Well, it's Growth and Development now, but he was a Gangster Disciple. And where I lived, that's what majority was Gangster Disciples. And I remember him, and he called out my name, and I yelled louder, crying. And then he started cursing, like, hey, what's going on here, whatever. And he called that guy name because he knew that guy, because that guy didn't live far from there. And then he told him to mind his MFing business and put his hand in his pocket like he had something, like not necessarily a gun, probably a knife or something, because he had tight pants on. He ain't had no gun in there. So I'm assuming a knife or just trying to bluff. And the dude was like, nah, man, you gonna have to let him go, man. I don't know what you on. And then, but the dude never got off the porch because he was a smaller guy, but he was part of the GDs or whatever, but he was a smaller guy. So this big dude came out, and I remember his nickname was Meatloaf. And he came out, and I guess that was his house. So when he came out, he started going on like, hey, what's going on here? But he was cursing or whatever. He's like, man, let that little kid go, man. He didn't know me from the Man on the Moon. And then his friend was like, oh, man, that's what's his name, cousin. And then he was like, hey, man, you're going to have to let him go. He started coming off the porch, which made the other guy start coming off the porch. He let my hand go. He was like, man, don't come up on me. You know, the guy that was my mom's friend and my friend, he let me go and backed up and was like, don't come up on me, and had his hand in his pocket like he had a knife or something. He's going to do something. He was like, man. And then, I was crying, but I didn't run to them either because I didn't know them. That one guy's face was familiar, but I didn't know him. So I was like, I didn't know what to do. I'm just standing there like crying. And then he was like, he's like, man, where you know this kid from? This, the Meatloaf guy. And then he's like, man, you don't worry about it. He cursing such. And then he looked at me and said, come on, I got to take you to your mama. That's what he told me. And then I looked at him, and I looked at the Meatloaf dude. I said, my mama work at Public Works. That's just where my brain was at. Was my mama work at Public Works. And he was like, I know where your damn mama worked. I remember him saying that. And then that's where I got to take you to her. And the dude was like, nah, man, you ain't taking him nowhere, man. And then the dude showed the butt of his gun. He was like, I don't even need this. And he pulled the gun out and gave it to one of his partners and was like, man, he said, you either gone, he said, you gonna leave this kid now, or, it's finna be a problem. And the dude just cursed him, and he was cursing, walking backwards up the street, trying to keep his eye on Meatloaf and them in case they try to do something to him. And then he went on and quick walk on up the street. And then I remember and then the Meatloaf dude stepped to me, and I kind of bagged up, and he said, hey, man, where you trying to go? You trying to go to your mama job? He said, man, I'll run you down there right now. And I didn't know what to do. I said, I can walk. And he was like, nah, man, you don't need to walk. He said, that dude live around the corner. He probably catch you up the block. He probably cut you off at the pass. So he said, nah, man. He said, I'm going to take you up there. And then I had to trust him. So it was him, the dude, that face I was familiar with, my cousin, and then there's a couple other guys, and we all got in this, I remember the car. It wasn't a box Chevy like everybody, the rappers and everybody talk about. It was actually it was I want to say a Buick. It was like a 4-door Buick, and it wasn't in the best shape, but he got in there, and I got to sit in the front in the middle, and we went down the street. Now, looking back on it, they could have done something to me. If they was on stuff like that, on what I'm thinking old boy was on, they could have done something because they had me. My mom didn't know any of this stuff was going on. They didn't know I was in that car, didn't know any of that. My mom, all she knew, it was I was either at the bus stop waiting on the bus, currently on the bus, or getting off the bus about to come into her office, or still at home. None of this other situation she even had a clue about. So I'm like, I'm sitting there, I'm nervous. And he knew where Public Works was. He shot up the street, wasn't that far away. He was like, all right, little man. And then the dude, he was like, be easy or whatever. And I remember him giving me the GD handshake. And I couldn't do it because I didn't know what he was doing. And he taught me how to do it. And to this day, I still know how to do that handshake. I still know that handshake. And it's called shooting a one. So we did the handshake. He said, man, you be careful out here. Be easy. And I said, man, I said, okay. And then I cleaned my eyes up or whatever. And then I went in. And I never told my mother about that. I just knew I wasn't going to work with her anymore because I figured that guy was going to be there. So my mom, I should have told her. But it's crazy the world that I grew up in and how things go, because I cleaned my eyes up. She was like, what's wrong with you? Been crying? I was like, oh, I just got upset. And then she yelled at me about being upset about something, about crying. And this happens a lot in the Black community. A Black single mother is so frustrated and not having that male partner or figure in the life of the child that they'll take out a lot of frustrations on them. So she, I don't know what she was mad about. It couldn't have been just I looked like I had been crying. She just yelled at me and then gave me some money. Now, mind you, after she did that, I left Public Works and literally walked another 6 blocks to go to McDonald's. Now, somebody else could have got me, or that same guy. Well, he ain't have a car, but he could have got me. But that's just the world we living in. But I had decided then I'm not going to work with her anymore. So needless to say, she forced me to go to work with her. But when I went to work with her, the guy wasn't there. The guy had quit. I think the guy feared that I did say that I was going to say something to my mother and my mother was going to do something to him. So it made me feel better because once I got to work, and then the other workers that worked in the building, they was like, oh, such and such quit. He quit today. So, you short on this floor. So, of course, short being on the floor because it was 2 people to each floor to clean. I had to stay up all night and clean, but I've never been more glad to clean in my whole life. To help clean that floor, dump the baskets and do all the stuff. And, she did mainly the big stuff, but I stayed up all night helping her and I had a smile on my face because I didn't have to face this guy. But I told that story now and it was kind of therapeutic for me. And I actually feel better just, getting that off my chest, telling this story. But it just lets me know pedophilia is just wrong, man, because I remember being young and, were you trying to force this on me? And I'm not going to say, and I'm not saying, just because he was gay, he was a pedophile. And, and I don't even know if that was the case. I don't know what his plan was to get me to that house. But if you paid attention to the story and everything that led up to it, whatever he was going to do to me in that house, it wasn't going to be good. And it wasn't going to, the outcome wasn't going to be good. And I know that I don't know it for a fact, but I feel like a fact. And I've never seen the guy again since then. I remember my mom said she seen him somewhere. And I remember saying, oh yeah, where was he at? And then she was like, oh, he worked at Target. I said, which one? Because I want to do something to him. And I could have been in jail right now. I actually went to that Target, but I guess he was off that day or maybe he quit. I actually was trying to scout the guy out. I kept going to that Target at different times because I was looking to find this dude. And I remember asking people, hey, it's such and such here. Oh, he's not here. Oh, he's not here. Does he work tomorrow? Well, why you want to know? People was like, I was like, I was looking to get this guy. But yeah, it was therapeutic for me, man, to let that off my chest, man. And that's when I look back at this Nambla and the Bakbazi thing. I mean, it's insane to me because what are these kids thinking about? Nobody's considering the kid. They're just being selfish and worried about their own sexual habit and appetite. And that's that's the insanity part of it to me. You know, that guy was only worried about what he wanted to do, not the outcome of me. You know what I'm saying? How I would have turned out. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I'd have made it to that house. If he wouldn't have killed me. I don't know if he would have or not, but I know I wouldn't be the same person. But yo, man, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this show up, man. And hey, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell when I upload. And I think I'm gonna try to tell more stories. I mean, I'm still gonna do entertainment news, but I'm gonna start telling more stories about different things that's happened to me, and there are I got a lot of stories to tell, man. I'm an older guy. I've been through a lot. So, yeah, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Hey, it's your boy, Carlito Monroe. Peace.